Hi, Monique. I can hear you, dear.
Okay, how are you?
I'm good. I'm getting ready for work.
Okay, well, welcome.
Thank you. So I'll leave in a few minutes. How long will you be on?
No longer than an hour and a half, but the first class is definitely an hour. But if people have questions and things like that, it could we could go over a little.
Okay, because I might be able to tap in by phone from my desk once I get
Okay,
to the office at 7.
okay, that sounds great. Well,
Okay.
thank you.
Love you, sweetie.
I love you too, darling. All
I'm
right.
having some technology issues. I'm just
Okay.
trying to sign in with my computer because my phone's gonna die.
Okay.
Yeah, my computer is being really fucked up, so like I'm just feeling like
Oh,
frazzled.
yeah, I understand entirely.
I have to get that done. Are you gonna wait a couple of minutes before you start? Is that
Yeah,
what
I
you
am.
said? Okay.
Okay,
Okay, cool.
cool. Hi, Holly. Let's see one. Hi, Pinky. Oh, you made it, Pinky. I'm so happy you're here. Okay, so let's see. I'm recording, but I also want to share. Okay, and now I want to. Okay, so what time is it? Um, oh gosh, Gabrielle's not feeling well. Okay.
Oh
Well, let me just send her a text telling her to take care. Okay. Okay, so Gabrielle's not going to come, so that's kind of what I was waiting for. So let's get ourselves started. We're going to do a little bit of meditation first, and um, and then we're going to go into the evening. So I'm recording. I have the slides up. Okay, great. Okay, so let's find ourselves in a comfortable position, a comfortable seated place, please, just so we can relax and get here. One of the things that's really important in doing this work, which might seem a little bit counterintuitive, that it's important for us to be able to really relax, like really be present to what we're experiencing, what we're feeling. And that takes a bit of willingness to sort of relax and soften. And the topic can be a little challenging for that. But if you set an intention for it at the beginning, you know, that you want to allow yourself to relax into this, to be present to how you're feeling and be present to what's coming up, and you can open the path for you to move through this in a way that can be graceful. So with that in mind, let's get still and present. So we're going to take 3 cleansing deep breaths together. So let's just allow ourselves to center into this moment, to know that we are gathered here together for ourselves, for one another, and for the energy that is our Father, that energy that lives and abides in us. We're opening ourselves to a new experience, a new conversation, a new perception, allowing this power, this presence to be reactivated at the deepest part of ourselves. And as we are allowing ourselves to be activated in this deep, sacred way, I call in our ancestors, our spirit guides, our light beings, those who walk with us on this path that we may never acknowledge, but are here with us at every given turn, rooting for us, directing us, protecting us in other dimensions, and other aspects of ourselves. And we know that we are one and we are held and we are carried by the Divine Mother and the Divine Father. So as we enter into this class, I ask you to hold in your mind and in your heart your intention for being here today. What was your motivation for being called to this work? What is your heart leading you to do? Who is your soul directing you to be? Trusting right now that all that you need will be sourced, all that you are will be touched, and ultimately all is well. For this and so much more, I give thanks. I release this word and I say, and so it is. Ashe.
And so it is.
Ashe. So good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know. We have one man enrolled in the class, but I think he's watching a basketball game, which is totally great. So welcome to Finding Our Fathers. I'm Monique Ruffin, and Gabrielle just texted me saying that she's not feeling well. But let me just introduce myself. So I'm Monique Ruffin. I am the creator of this course, this work, and the co-facilitator. Gabrielle facilitates with me, and I just appreciate her wisdom and power. She truly is a gift to all of us, and to me especially. And so I'm very excited about this work what we're doing. And like I was saying earlier to, maybe it was to Sabrina, I was just saying that we're balancing out the other side, because we just completed the mother work yesterday. And now we're moving into the father work. And the father work is different because it's a different energy. And so it's similar, but there is a more activity, because we're not necessarily, as feminine women, we're not focusing on who we are as much. We are, but we are not, it's not the main drive. It really is focusing on what our energy brings to us. How we are actually creating our realities based upon those early childhood experiences that really formed who we become. And so the father work is about us identifying those overriding ideas that live inside of us, that are frequencies, that are traumas, that are connected to how we show up in the world based upon how our father patterned for us. And so that's the work that we're doing. And so I started this work because I was divorcing my husband at the time, who's now my ex-husband. And we were having a yelling match, and it was not the first one. And I realized that we were about to go down a path that was going to be devastating for me. And if it was going to be devastating for me, then it was certainly going to be devastating for him, because as women, when we create devastation, it's like nothing else you've ever seen. And it's different than masculine devastation, because ours is so internal. So it pulls on the energetic within the environment. It's not just something that, it's not just out in our outer expression. It literally, because we rule the emotional world and the feeling world, I knew that my upset with him was going to wreak havoc in our lives, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. And I didn't want that for my son. It's as simple as that. I literally did not want my son to experience what I had witnessed so many of my friends experience, what I had experienced in my own life. And I knew that I needed to do something pretty drastic in order to shift it. And after we were having this huge yelling match, and I was in the kitchen, and I literally caught myself yelling at him. I had an out of body experience for a moment, like my psyche split, and I was watching myself yell at him and listening to myself yell at him. And also I was also very much the watcher. So there were like these two things going on inside of me. And so something felt different. And so after we got off the phone, I sat down at my altar and said, Father God, I really need you to help me understand what I can do to heal this, because this is unacceptable. And Spirit said immediately, heal your relationship with your father, and you will heal your relationship with your son's father. And when that information came, I was so clear that was exactly what I needed to do. And I've been doing this work now for about 9 years, and it has been life-changing for me. And so I want to really help you understand that this is a journey, and I'm not, yes, I'm going to give assignments, and I'm going to, suggest things, and I might suggest books to read and all that sort of stuff. And I've been doing this work for 9 or 10 years, right? So I have a wealth of information. And so what I'm going to encourage you to do is to find your yes and to find your no. So if something works for you, great, and you should take it on. And if it doesn't work for you, great, you should leave it for another time, because this is really tender work, and it requires that we have a perspective towards ourselves where we're not judging ourselves for how we feel or what we experienced. There has to be a willingness to just allow what is present to show up. And so if something feels like, there's no way I can do that, don't do that. And if something feels like I must do this really speaks to me, then by all means take it on. So that is how I created this work. It's life-changing for me. It's changed my relationship with my son. It's changed my relationship with all the men in my life. And it continues to change. It's something that doesn't stop. Like, it continues to give in a way that is exponential and inspiring and healing for me. And I can always come back to it. It's once I've started doing it, I owned it, and it's mine, and it's always there for me to access. So that is who I am, and that is what this work is. And then Gabrielle, she's not here, but Gabrielle is a co-facilitator and a goddess and a mother. And when she comes in our next course, she can introduce herself. But many of you guys know her, so that's Gabrielle. And so the purpose of this course, let me see if I can move this over here. Okay. This course is designed to help participants identify how experiences in infancy and adolescence inform the adult you've become. We create a pattern of our parents, one feminine and one masculine, which works as a map or instruction manual for our future relationships. Our relationship with our father informs how we function in the world, choose our partners, and how we feel about ourselves for our entire life. Let's discover what is working and what can be released. Welcome to Finding Our Fathers. So let me also say this, since Gabrielle's not here, I don't have anyone that's really helping me with chat stuff. So I'm going to check the chat. Okay, great. So that's great. So I'm sorry. Let me go back. Okay. And now I'm going to move this over here. Okay, so it is my intention to create a safe space and container for every participant to explore their early life for the purpose of making connections and seeing the chords which create patterns that may be keeping you from being who you are created to be. The cord to the Father is but one way to heal our originating perceptions. So if anybody has any questions, you can stop me. I'm going to just raise your hand or unmute yourself, and that's it. So first of all, I run these courses with the phases of the moon. And as many of you know, I run the moon room as well. And the reason I choose to run it with the phases of the moon is because the energy of the moon is the creative power of our universe, of our planet. And so when we're running the work with the moon, like it is, we're actually going to be able to go through all of the cycles in this experience, in this relationship. So we get to go through getting clear about what we're doing. We get to have a clearing around it. We get to do gathering. We get to use all of the phases and the energies so that we're not pushing ourselves up a mountain, so that we're actually in flow with the universe. And that makes the work, it brings more grace to the work. So the first thing we want to start with is, who is and who was your father? When you think about your father, who was he and who is he and how does he show up in the world? And what do you feel when you think of that person in your life? What comes up for you more than anything? What are the overwhelming feelings and thoughts and sensations that occur for you? And what do you remember most? And so as we begin to identify who our father is or who he was, and that energy, that frequency that was created based upon that relationship, what we will begin to understand is how we are connected to that experience, how we show up in that experience. So for instance, when I was a little girl, my father was just, he was, he wore suits all the time, and he kind of dressed like, like a pimp. He was a pimp, but he dressed like a pimp. Like he wore those hats and those suits and those platform shoes. And he was very much the life of the party. He was very much the person who had everyone laughing and really just had all the energy swarming around him. And so when I think about my father, I think about those aspects of him, and I realize that those aspects do live in me as well. I am too very much like that in a lot of ways. It shows up differently, but it's still there in me. And my father used to recognize that when I was a little girl. He would always say that you look like me and you act like me and you talk, and people always reminded me of that. So if we really want to begin taking, inventory of who our father was, how he made us feel, what kind of music did he listen to? Like what was his perspective on the world? What was his overall mood? What is his overall mood? Was his work very important to him? Was he satisfied in his life? Did you see him be in love with your mother or other women? Did you see him struggle in relationships? Just what comes up when you think about this man, and how do you identify him? And then who are you in regards to that? Like, how does that idea, that identity that you have of your father, how does it show up in your own reality? How are you connected to him? What habits do you have that you witnessed in him? What type of things do you have? What things do you enjoy doing that your father also enjoyed doing? Like one of the things for me, like my father loved Al Green when I was a little girl, and I still love Al Green today. Like it's just something that really resonates with me. And I remember the album that my father had with Al Green sitting in that wicker tan chair with that suit on with his leg crossed. And so it's like really getting the memories, but I also have other memories of my father where he was violent and brutal. And so that was an aspect of him too. And so we want to really begin to collect the pieces and see what you put together. And then based upon who your father was and who you are, you can start to look into your life and see who the men are in your life. How do they remind you of your father? Or how do they make you feel similarly to the way your father occurred for you in your life? You know, are they present and available? Are they unavailable? It just depends on, you know, sometimes we can gravitate to men who are exactly like our fathers in a lot of ways. That had been my experience. And the reason it's so important as a woman is because we carry the energetic frequency with a womb where we truly are the creators of reality. Like, that's what we do. The masculine energy gives the spark where life is created, but everything here we have created, we have birthed. And so when we understand our frequency and how it resonates, then we can understand the men that are showing up in our lives. So I had a belief system that men were destructive and that they didn't know how to add value, that they really always took away from the pot, that their presence diminished everything in the space. And so for a long time, that would be my experience with men, even if they were not that way, because our energy is so powerful and so vital. I would create a man into the very thing that I didn't like because I was holding it that is who men were and men are. So it's very important that we start to just get curious about how it's possible that we are in the co-creative position and creating relationships that are either serving us or not. How are we contributing and doing it in either way, one way or another? What's really going on here? Renee, you have a question? I can't hear you. Gosh, I wonder why. No, I cannot hear you. It's so weird. Oh, Renee, did you leave? Okay. So,
Can you hear me?
yes, I can now. Yes.
Okay, so again, I have two questions. The first one being,
You're a little low. I don't know why I can't hear you well.
you know what, maybe
Like, you actually just have gone away entirely.
oh,
Now you're back. Now you're gone. That's so strange. Okay, try again. I can't. Oh, you muted yourself. You don't want to ask your question?
I was gonna try and type it in the chat.
Okay, I can hear you now. Go ahead.
Okay. So, I was gonna ask about the possibility of finding or looking for someone that is not like your father, or choosing partners that are opposite to your father.
And what exactly is your question?
Well, I guess okay. So one of my questions, or one of the things that troubles me, is that I don't, as far as biological goes, I have absolutely no clue
Right.
who that is. But I do have a father that raised me, and so I wonder about whether my choices are not people that are like my dad that raised me, and I wonder if that has anything to do with, because you were talking about the spark that creates, that masculine spark that actually creates us as life, and if you don't know who that is, then how does that affect how you choose?
Okay. So your sound is very not stable. So I'm gonna do my best to answer your question. Okay, great. So it really isn't a mental exercise. Like, when we do the work and we begin to really understand how the universe works, it isn't energetic. So regardless, right? Including who your biological father is, that is an undeniable energetic that lives and abides in you. And that's who you're made of, right? But also, because as a child, your experience was with a father. So you really, what I want to say here? Your perception and your mentality would be based upon what you experienced with your birth father. I mean, not with your birth father, with your adopted father. And so we have, I want to say, like, it's not a math equation, right? It's not a math equation. It really is, much more intuitive and understanding than, because, like, for instance, I wasn't raised by my father at all. Like, I literally was raised by my grandmother. I don't think I ever lived in the house with my father for one moment. And my father has 2 children that never knew him, ever. And they are still very much like him. They never laid eyes on him. They had another, but they don't know that about them because they never met him. But I know that about them. Do you understand what I'm saying? I know that they literally walk like my father, talk like my father, but they have no clue. But I can see the genetics at work because I lived with my father. So it really is for me, in the spaces where I don't have all the answers, like, I really then cultivate my relationship to spirit. So that, because the universe is going to lead you and direct you in the way of your healing, always. So, like I said, it's not a math equation. And you're going to do the work and be in the process of healing, no matter what you know in your mind or not, right? No matter if you have something to point to or not. So I hope that's helpful. Okay, so great. I'm gonna come to the questions in a minute. I want to go to the next slide. Okay, so we want to go through symbols of fatherhood, because when we're, a lot of the ideas that we have about manhood are based upon our experiences, but they also are based upon the culture that we live in. And the culture gives us ideas about what masculinity is. And so I just came up with a few of them. And if anybody has more, would like to share more, I'm totally open to that, because I didn't think of all of them, but I really just wanted to go through what they are. And symbols of fatherhood, God, that has been one of the biggest symbols that we have taken on as, this masculine energy, God, this all-knowing force, this power that's everywhere. And that has always been, in current years, it's becoming more leaning towards feminine, but in the past, it has always been God the Father. That is it. God, and, this punitive will destroy you and give you life and is always watching over you. He's watching everything you do. Just this very big energy. And then there's Father Time, the Godfather, the provider, and the protector. So, let's just go through those. So the Father as God. So the image of God as masculine is given to us as early as we can remember. This all-knowing, all-powerful, all-seeing, everywhere present being. In some ways, we are to believe he is all-loving, and in many ways, he is oppressive, punitive, and ruthless. Usually, the image of this God is portrayed as a European man who has the power to dominate the entire world. So that's God as the Father. And then Father Time, which is another one. Let's see. Let me check the chat just to see. I love that, Kirsten. That's really great. And I think that that's a unique perspective, and I want to hear more about that too. Okay. So Father Time. And Father Time, there's this idea that, time is the great equalizer in life. The image of Father as the ruler of time can create a relentless figure who will always win. No one can beat Father Time. And when it's all said and done, Father Time will take all that you've created and believe to be significant. So time is this idea of time as masculine, as father, as just this power that we have to be, that we have to surrender to. And so when we think about it, in our culture, this experience of father is a very dominant, very, it's dominant, it's ominous, it's everywhere, and it's elusive, and it has power over you, is how it has always run through my mind in this culture. Okay, let me see if I can get to the next one. Father as protector. So father as protector brings to mind images of a man who will sacrifice his safety for that of others. He is willing to risk his life, his wealth, his health for the well-being of his family and his community. He has no needs of his own and is considered invincible. He is without emotions except justified anger towards anyone who would harm the few he protects and cares for. His love for those he protects is boundless, and his very life is dedicated to said people. And so this is just, this idea of in our culture that is the job of the masculine, to protect, to make sure that no one is harmed, to make sure everyone is safe, and to sacrifice himself in the process of that if needed, because he has all the might, he has all the power, he is equal to that of God. And so that's father as protector. And then father as provider. Father as provider is able to create resources for himself and his family or community. He gives of his knowledge, care, finances, and life for the well-being of others. In our culture, we most often equate this with money as provider, like just providing resources to those that he is in service to and in care of. Okay. Let's see. So anyone, you can come off mute. We can have a conversation. I don't want to have to read all the things. I want to have a dialogue. Kirsten, do you want to come and chat? That'd be great. Okay, so the Godfather. Kirsten?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Oh, okay, I had to figure out how to get off of mute.
Yes.
Yeah, in all of these representations.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
In all of this, father was not that. Father was more like one of the kids.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He did all the fun things with us. He didn't discipline us. He was the jokester. He was Loki, or he was the devil.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. I so want to talk to you more. I wish the static wasn't happening. And
Staticky?
Yeah, there's quite a bit of static. Oh, okay.
I don't know where my mic is.
Okay, it's okay. Yeah, okay. So I'm gonna mute you. I'm gonna put you back on mute, and okay, great. So yes, it is. So my intention is for us to really sort of explore what the messages have been in the culture about fatherhood, about the masculine, like what are the messages that we got? And, so for many of us, if we were raised in traditional religion, the father was God, and how do we take those messages in? How did those messages then live in our lives? And then how did those messages also create contradictions for us that had us feeling curious or at a loss, or, like you're an outsider, or, and just at odds with yourself in a way. Like, how did that show up? And so, of course, that's going to be different for all of us. We all have a different story, and we all have unique experiences. But the core of this is about understanding how those belief systems, how those experiences created a pattern for you that then influence the way you are relating to men and also showing up in the world and also choosing partners. And so that's at the core of this, because how you took in these messages as a child completely influences the way you move through the world. And it's a beautiful thing, because the beauty of it is that because we were formed with these, we can create new messaging and then create new experiences, which is the thing that we're here to do. And it works. That's all it really works. Okay. So who was your father? Who is your father? When you were a child, what did you feel from your father most of the time? You know, I remember when I was a little girl, when my father was around, he was a ticking time bomb. And I knew it. I was like, it's going to be about, it was just one of those experiences where when he came in the room, I could start counting down for the explosion to happen. And it didn't matter if it was a lot of people in the room, or he was just going to do something that was going to ruin it all. So I'm like, he was just going to ruin it all. The party was going to be over soon when my father got there, because he just couldn't control himself. But really it was because he had so much anger and so many unmet needs. He had so many unmet needs that when he came into an environment where the energy was present, he just would do whatever he could to pull the energy just to meet his needs. That's really what was going on. He was just trying to meet his own wounds. And it took me many years to figure that out, but that's at the core of it. I'm clear that he was seeking, what I have since learned was really the connection that he wanted with his mother, that she didn't know how to really offer him. And there are many reasons for that, right? Like, for those of us who are African American or Black, I don't like the word African American, there is some mothers experience a fear around parenting Black boys, because this idea that they can go out into the world and not be safe. And so you protect yourself, you try to protect them, and there's just a lot of trauma. So I know that was what was running in my family. And as we do this work, you get to explore what may have been running in your family, what may have been the root cause for some of your father's behaviors, that depending on when he was born, what was going on in the world, what he had access to, what he didn't have access to, how he was raised, all of that influenced the way he showed up with you. And so with your father, did you feel a sense of his love? Did he feel confident and empowered and empowerment? Or did you feel he was angry and unavailable? Does anybody want to say anything? I feel like I heard somebody kind of come off mute. No? Okay, great. And so, okay, go ahead.
My dad was super angry, and I feel a lot of that ticking time bomb stuff too. Mm-hmm. I was like in fear all the time of the rage, and I've spent my entire life being scared of men, and I even just decided I was gonna just give up altogether, and I was just like, I'm gonna be gay. Mm-hmm. So I didn't really probably need to do all that for decades,
Mm. Okay, so let me ask you a question right now. So are you saying that you decided to be gay based upon your fear of men?
Something like that, yes. I had it in me. I feel like I had it in me anyway.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
My sisters are both bi, and I think my mother really wanted to be gay, but it was like the 50s. And I had some boyfriends beat me up and date rape type of stuff when I was a teenager. And I was living in Illinois in like a cornfield in the middle of nowhere in Chicago suburbs. And I just said, I'm leaving. I'm going to go to Vegas and be gay.
Okay.
So I left town, and it was a lot of it was just because I was scared of men. So I know it's not supposed to be a decision, and I feel it was already there, but I did make the decision.
Okay. And so I honor that, Pinky. I totally honor that.
Thank you. I don't think my screen flipped. It's still the guy with the cute scarf on his head.
I don't know I'm not sure what you. Okay.
All
Oh, really?
right.
Oh, yeah. So what's going on here? There's something going on technical here, but I don't want to take up the space talking about it because your phone.
I'll unmute.
It's okay. It's all good. So I just, first of all, Pinky, I really want to acknowledge you for having the wherewithal to be present to your process and journey, to acknowledge that your choice, that the seeds of it were there, but it was influenced by difficult experiences. And that is how these relationships influence us and impact us. Like, you get to see the choices that you make out in the world based upon your relationship with your father. For instance, for me, I have always chosen men who prove time and time again that they are unavailable. It's just what I'm drawn to. I just don't, it's because that's my energy frequency. That's what I carry. And so I'm wanting to, so Pinky, can you mute yourself now? Or do you have two different lines open?
It's muted. I just had to unmute to tell you it's muted.
Okay. Okay. And so it's like when we can identify and tell ourselves the truth, right? Like it literally is telling yourself the absolute truth without judgment, without shame, without any sort of ideas of right and wrong, just allowing yourself to be truthful. I can honestly say that I have totally looked the most amazing men in the face who are kind and loving and who are declaring their availability to me. And I have said, oh no, that's too much because it's not my circuitry. It's not my frequency. And so I've had to work to deliberately change that so that I can realize, first I had to accept that, oh, I say I want one thing, but what I really want is what I'm getting. Like, rather than being at odds with it. So I might say I want a partner in my life who's very available and loving and very kind, but really I'm attracting men who are unavailable, who don't communicate well. So that's what I really do want. Like, the moment I could say, this is like, ooh, God, I know shit, but this is what I want because it's what's here. So let me work with this. Let me stop being in denial, stop resisting, because the resistance just draws it in closer to you. And so the moment you get clear about what is the overwhelming experience and belief system that I have around my father? How's that showing up in my life? And why am I creating it? Because that's all that's going on. Okay, so let's go to the next one. Okay, so the 3 areas of exploration. So you want to discover your father's identity, just whatever it is you named that to be when you were, maybe that was one thing when you were 3 and it was something different at 12. But think about from 0 to 7. What was your father's identity? And like I've shared with you about mine, Jesse, my father was, George Jefferson. That's who he was. But like a drug dealer, George Jefferson, not not like a businessman. But those are businessmen too. But so it's like really getting clear about that identity. And then how does your father's identity show itself in you? The minute I started dating, the moment when I was 13 and 14 years old, literally every boy was just like my father. He was a drug dealer. They were, on the street corner. Like, that's all that I was attracted to, because that was what my father had offered to me as a pattern. And anything that showed up different, I couldn't hold frequency with them. And I mean that. And I see it like how it's shown up in my life. For instance, I have this one friend we dated when we were in college, and he was very studious, very dedicated to his craft and his work. He was in school to be a filmmaker, and we dated, and I was just horrendous in this relationship. I mean, just horrendous, because I didn't have any value for that. And we're friends today, he and I, and now he's like the head writer on Black Lightning, something like that, because he worked all those years, bettering himself and really working that skill set. And when I go to his house, his wife laughs. She'll be like, this is his ex-girlfriend. And they're really like, I could not hold frequency with that. I couldn't hold it. So now I literally have no regret over it at all, but I see how I created it. So he has this partner, and they have this big, beautiful house, and they have the things that the world values. And my father was not that. He was against the world. So I attracted men who were against the world. And here 20, 30 years later, I see the evidence of my inability to hold frequency with this man who was committed and confident and present. I couldn't hold frequency with him, and I see the result of it. And there's no judgment on it. It's a beautiful thing. He and I are great friends today. We talk about it. We love it. I get it. And it was a beautiful lesson for me to learn about life. And so, it's fantastic. But you want to see how that shows up in your life. How does your father's identity show up in your life? And then as we continue to do this work, we will begin to create a new masculine imprint for ourselves within our lives. Just literally by seeing how it's not working, seeing how we want it to shift, seeing how we're creating it, taking responsibility for it, and then beginning to create a new model. And so we want to just explore some of the negative identities. And this is just a few to give you some things to think about. This is not all of them, but just a few. So the negative identity is angry, unavailable, destructive, womanizing, abusive, overbearing, maybe addiction. All of those things are just the negative things. And here's the thing, no person is one or the other. We're some of all, a little of none. We have balance within us. And if we don't have balance within us, nobody is only all angry. This is my point. So those are just some of the negative identities. And then the positive identities: confident, present, trustworthy, intelligent, powerful, like able to create, able to make things happen, compassionate, not just taking care of yourself. That's one of the stories that I have held about men is that they only look out for themselves. They're not really here to make sure everybody else is okay. I'm the mother. I'm gonna make sure everybody's good. But really, that's an idea that I have. That's not the reality, because there are many men out there who take care of everybody, who actually are here in service to the feminine. But because I have that belief system, that is what shows up in my reality, or what has in the past shown up in my reality. Loving, and when I say loving, just this like a power and a presence that is allowing, that doesn't attempt to squelch and oppress others, that really allows. One of the things that I love to think about it, that I love in a man, is when a man inspires others to be leaders. That when he doesn't have to have all the power, and there are men and all of us there, they exist, but you have to align with that frequency in order to experience it. So let's come off mute. Let's have some questions or some ideas. Let's share, let's chat. Oh, I don't know what happened to that. Okay, that's not what I wanted to have happen. Anyone have any questions or? Okay. So here's what I want you. Okay, who's asking? Come on with a question.
I have a question.
Okay.
I'm just wondering what your perspective would be on this, because I'm listening to you talk about thinking about the men I've attracted into my life. And it's weird because my first love was like, he was very present and loving and attentive. And that was like a really healing experience for me. But then he cheated on me, and my father had cheated on my mom and then later cheated on his second wife too. And that's the only like similarity I can see between them.
Mm-hmm.
He cheated on me because I think we were just young. We were just like young kids. And after that happened, I completely lost respect for him. And then every guy I've been with after that has been very like emotionally unavailable, like my dad.
Mm-hmm.
And I just have always been confused by what that pattern was. Anyways, I don't know. I just wondered what your perception might be about something like that.
Well, I think that like I said, it's always an energetic frequency. So whatever was the outcome of the relationship was seated at the beginning. And we need, something has to draw us in to get our attention, to get us to stay there. Yeah. And so you might not have likely been willing to stay there and be in the relationship and have the experience if we were different initially. And then I remember from when we were Finding Our Mothers, you were talking about how like around the same time, like your mother started to have really challenging relationship experiences, right, as well?
After my dad left?
Yeah, or something like that.
Yeah, well, my stepdad, she dated another guy briefly, and I barely remember him, and then she married my stepdad, and that was a really awful experience. Like,
right.
And his sons were abusive towards my mom, his teenage sons, and he
wow.
was doing anything to help her.
Right.
He didn't want to deal with it, that it was happening. That was a
right.
really bad decision.
Right. And so, what can happen, like family dynamics, everybody's working with the same lesson. Okay. Yeah. We come into these family structures and you see, mom has problems with this, and everybody is working with the same stuff because it's one energetic frequency. It literally is. Everybody carries their part of it, is like what I'll say, right? And what you do for yourself, you do for the whole. So this work, when you do work to change this and shift this, it will shift it in your entire family line. It's just how it works. But there is no separation in it, and it's easy for us to get. Like I said, it's not a math equation. It really is about the belief systems that are in there.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting too, because my mom's dad was like this super grounded. I mean, he might not be the most emotionally present person because he's a Capricorn and an engineer, and he was very like dedicated to work. He was but he was like he was so like loving and present and just stable. And then she married these men, and very compassionate, and she married these men who were just like these narcissistic assholes. Like anyways, it's interesting. And I look at that first love relationship sometimes like, well, maybe that was something that just like needed to come into my life at that time, help boost me because I was already kind of broken, and but then everything happened. I don't know. Yeah,
right. It's okay. It's okay. Sit with it, meditate on it, pray about it, and be gentle, right? Like, be gentle. Like, it's like, like I said, it's not a math equation. It's not.
It's not logical.
It's not like that. I mean, there are some aspects that are logical, but that's not how the heart works. It's not. Right. So trust the process.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else? Let's see. Okay, so I would like, as a homework, yes?
Hi.
Hi.
This is a lot to reflect on. I don't think I ever approached this in the work that I've done with myself and on myself, which is so strange because, the mother wound, I guess, was so much stronger. I noticed that in reflecting on past loves, I didn't choose my father. I chose my brother.
I'm sorry, your brother or your mother?
Brother.
Your brother. Mm-hmm.
He is 4 years younger, but when he was of age...
There's a lot of static. Oh, I wish it wasn't. I so want to hear you well.
Oh, I don't know.
Do you have a headphone by any chance?
With a mic?
Like, see how I have my headphone plugged into my computer, and it literally
tames down the static?
Yes, it does.
Let me try it.
Okay.
How's that?
It's not better. It's not.
Wait a minute. Let's see. Any better?
Not really.
Oh man.
I know. Okay, but go ahead. Let's see if we can just muscle through it. You chose your brother, you said.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He got to embody more of what I was attracted to.
Mm-hmm.
At 21, 22, he started selling drugs, but somehow or another, he became more of a provider and protector. And that wasn't my father was. But when I reflect on my relationships, they all possess some aspect that reminded me of my brother more than my father. My father, though he was a very interesting person, just never appeared fatherly because of addiction. And it wasn't until he was 21 I was 21 rather, that he actually got to the 12th step. And even then, I didn't know what to do with that. I had no clue how to reach him. Actually, I didn't start doing any type of recovery work until a few years ago.
Okay, you know what? I'm sorry. The static is just like... it's so bad. I apologize. Okay, so let's talk afterwards. Maybe we can, maybe I can try and help you try and figure out what the static is, because I want you to be able to participate. I want to hear your story.
I don't know what to do.
Okay, it's really like literally, it's just like yeah. Everyone's saying, can you put it in the chat? But I know that what you're sharing. Yes, please put it in the chat. And I know that what you're sharing is, like, I'm a writer, so I know how challenging it is to share as a writer, from that space. So, so I'm going to hold space for you, and we're going to figure out how to get the mic to work for you as well. Is there anyone else who would like to share a little bit? I feel like Brittany had taken hers off mute, but she...
Hey, Monique, I didn't take mine off of mute. I kind of came on like towards the end, so I'm not really Sure. Like I missed the first part of it.
Okay. Okay, cool. That's fine. Well, thank you for being here.
You're welcome.
You're welcome. Okay, so here's the thing. So we are at the beginning of a new moon phase. And so what I would like for you all to do, we're going to have our meetings on Wednesdays and Sundays. And so I'll send out a class schedule. On Sunday, we're going to have Dr. Monica Ogando. She's going to come and talk about the epigenetics of the father. And her work, for those of you who did the mother one with me last month, is so incredible. Like, to understand how we take these energies on, like, she's going to absolutely break it down so you're going to be able to get it. 7 p.m. Hunia, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So I'll send out a class schedule so you have all of that and you can plan the calendar with all the dates. And so Sunday, epigenetics, and then Wednesday with Michael Lennox, the astrological father. We're going to be discussing astrology and how that relationship with the father is a cosmic one, that we are actually like here to work through. Like it's our birthright to work through this stuff. And so I'll send you all of that. So I want you for the next day or so, I want you to really think about your intention. What are you here for? Really, what do you want to get out of this? How do you want to land on the other end of this in 30 days? How do you want to land? And with that intention. Okay. Pinky says she can't hear. Okay. All right, Pinky. Oh, Pinky, you can't hear us? Okay. Okay. So I want you to think about, what you're here for and how you want this to be. Like, so for me, for instance, when I first started doing this work, literally, this is what my intention was, that every man would adore me and show up in service to me, to my health, to my well-being, to my happiness, and to my joy. That was my intention. And so that means I had to really work on myself. And I've been doing this work for 10 years, and I do have that now. It has taken time, and it has always gotten better. It gets exponentially better. And then there are times when it'll contract, and I'll be like, wait a minute, let me get my work done. Because, I can, like, my frequency might go off. And so really understanding how we're creating these realities. So get clear about what your intention is, how you want to be at the end of this 30-day process and this 30-day journey. And so with that in mind, and if no one has any more questions or any more comments, I am going to just say, like, I love you all, and I'm so grateful that you're on this journey with me. And the fact that I get to do this with you all, you don't understand. Like, this is so healing for all of us. And when we do this together, we really change the world. And right now, the feminine is being asked to step up in a new way, to really step into our power. And the only way we step into our power is by understanding what our power is. We are the creators we create all of this. Every man on this planet came from what? A womb. Every man on this planet came from a womb. And so every man on this planet is an aspect of our creation. And so if we don't like it, we need to love ourselves until we love it into a frequency that works and that really is beneficial. But we need to find our power first. That's what we're here to do. So with that, I love you all. And any questions you have, post them in the room. So this is the other thing I want you to do. I want you to make sure you have a photo of your father. Look at it in the morning. It's in love. Thank you. Please forgive me. Please, I forgive you. I love you. Look at the picture day, in the morning time, and in the nighttime. If you have two fathers, look at that picture. If you have a father and a brother, like whoever is that, you want to love that aspect of yourself daily. That's what we're up to right now. Okay. And I sent out the prayer, the ancestral prayer. I encourage you to set up a small altar or a small temple, whatever works for you. It could be a candle, or it can be a huge thing. and be present to that daily, because we really want to start to work on that energy frequency and work on how we are creating these realities. So that is all. I love you all so much. Okay, anything else? If not, we will see you in the room. Good night, everyone. Oh, and this video will be posted like later on tonight, so you can re-listen to it and hear that.